let's quickly get started with today's show. We are joined by CA Ravi Kotwani. Now, he's a qualified chartered accountant with more than 12 years of experience, professional exposure working in conjunction and directly with the Big Fours, MNCs and the MNEs in consulting, advisory and tax structuring domains. Welcome to the show, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
CA Ravi Kotwani, Director of Revenue and Strategy Formulation, Avyanco Group of Companies. आज हम बात कर रहे हैं about qualifying activities in free zones. Very interesting topic. अगर summary में थोड़ा बहुत बताना है what's coming up in terms of qualifying activities in free zones, if you would like to explain.
Like before going ahead with the qualifying activities, I would like to make it relatively too generic and simple, rather than making it too technical. Because if I talk about a lot of technical stuff, it becomes relatively too difficult for the masses to understand. So mainland and free zone, everybody understands, there are two jurisdictions. The corporate tax that has been announced, they have clearly dissected these two particular jurisdictions, giving them some benefits and certain activities that will be taxable. So mainland, they have made it very clear that, you need to pay taxes on all the transactions, whether you engage into business with another mainland company, with a free zone entity or outside of UAE. But you will be given a small business relief. But that is not the case with free zones. Free zones, they have given one particular aspect stating that if you engage into certain type of activities, the activities which they have listed, only then you will be able to take the benefit of the corporate tax. That is by not paying corporate tax. So the benefit is not auto-derived. It is based on the type of activities that they engage into. And only then you get this particular benefit. So if you don't engage into those type of activities, you will end up paying corporate tax to the government.
Correct. And I think mostly follow hote hi hai ki you will end up actually paying corporate tax. But there are very few, I think, if you see the percentage.
See, the thing is, tax is always healthy. In respect of the fact that, it is always in the interest of the government, it is always in the interest of the economy and its development. Having said that, the benefit that is given to certain type of business activities, those are those activities which drive the economy. So the government tries and gives subsidies or any kind of incentives to them, stating that these would be those activities that would help the economy thrive. They would not even serve, they would thrive the economy forward.
Barabar.
So corporate tax or any tax for that matter, whether it is in UAE or any country, the country's growth, in fact, I would say, if you have observed over the last 3 years, in fact, pandemic has been a boon for UAE government. They have seen excessive high FDI over the entire region.
Super.
Despite of the fact they've introduced this tax and they are seeing more. So tax is always healthy in that particular perspective.
Right.
Before we start with our questions, already एक सवाल आ गया है. Sadia has come up with the question. Do you think the restriction for the distribution of goods to resellers has been removed for qualifying income as the definition is inclusive? In Cabinet Decision 265, some definitions are inclusive and some are exhaustive. Kindly share your opinion. आपने शुरुआत में कहा था कि technical नहीं होगा, but अब करना ही पड़ेगा, I think.
नहीं, certainly. See, the cabinet decision that was released back in September as well as back in June, I would say last Friday itself there was an update that had come in. Last Friday the government came up with an update. They come up with updates on every weekend so that we experts or any professionals, they end up at least reading about the same. जो इन्होंने सवाल पूछा है उसका ये है क्वेश्चन कि if distribution of goods within a designated free zone is still exempted or not.
Okay.
I would rather like to explain that distribution of goods has always been exempted since the start.
Okay.
Within the designated free zone. ये मैं stress कर रहा हूँ designated free zone पे इसलिए because designated free zones are those free zones which are within the customs gated community.
Right.
They are not any other regular free zones.
Right.
So only those free zones wherein there is a distribution of goods within that particular designated zone is still exempted.
Right.
But the objective is B2B transaction होना चाहिए. It should
Correct.
be B2B, business to business. It cannot be business to consumer.
Right.
So if I'm having a company in a designated free zone and my customer is also in a designated free zone, if I'm having this particular transaction, this is completely outside the gamut of corporate tax. They've given that exemption.
And that list is also there, designated
Absolutely.
free
12
zone.
activities.
Javza?
Javza sir ek hai, then you have Hamariya free zone, Rakesh is there.
Okay.
There are like list of more than 20 plus designated free zones entire UAE which are exempted from this.
Right. Now, Ravi, there has been a lot of, in terms of understanding, there's been a lot of air that is going around where free zones are concerned, right? I mean,
Correct.
There's been no, initially they said there was, it's not designated, then they said it's non-designated, then they said you have to pay, you don't have to pay. So the confusion, has this been cleared or not?
I'll tell you, very clearly that I completely, concur with this thought. There has been a confusion in the air. There is a lot of ambiguity. Whether free zones are supposed to pay taxes or not. The thing is that, the term free zone itself derives the fact that, you're free
It's
from
free.
any taxes.
Yeah.
But it is not the case. Free zones were always subject to tax, whether it was VAT or whether it was corporate tax. There are certain exclusions, as I mentioned, that if you engage into certain type of activities, you will be given that benefit. But never was the case that, they were completely outside the gamut. So free zones are subject to corporate tax. They have to obtain registrations. They have to comply with all the laws. Only certain type of activities would be exempted in this case.
Correct.
But this came into focus, Ravi, after the corporate tax was released. This
Yes.
was never known before. So suddenly for businesses who have been doing, business for so many years, for them it's come to them as a shocker.
Yes, the thing is actually why they were not aware of this, maybe because of lack of awareness. This was one particular thing. And the second part was that, previously there was VAT. Now, VAT was one particular transaction. Like, say, for example, if I engage into any transaction, I go to, say, Dubai Mall, buy one particular shoes from Nike store. I end up paying, say, about 500 dirhams. Over and above that, I charge, the store charges me VAT and I discharge that. The objective at that time was, you had to always charge the customer, the end consumer. Right now, corporate tax is little different. It is not on the top lines. It is on the profits you derive.
Right.
So if the Nike store has charged me 500 dirhams and discharged 25 dirhams of that and paid to the government, after that it has its cost towards paying the rent of the store, salaries to the staff, commission, XYZ. After this, when they have that particular profit, they have to pay corporate tax. Now, the reason that I explained this entire transaction was to give you a fair insight that, to have this particular understanding that where you have to pay, you have to do a lot, maintain books.
Correct.
Keep your records place and then accordingly, file returns to them. So tax doesn't, mean discharging of liability to the government. It comes with a lot of other responsibilities that how do you arrive to that? You need to manage a lot of other stuff. That is to keep your books ready, keep your records ready. That is one particular reason that was not the case in VAT. Because VAT, you had to, it was plain and simple. You had to just charge the customer, keep a record and discharge it to the government.
It
Now
was
there is a
easy
lot of, now it is.
As long as
what
you're
is it?
providing an invoice, you have to.
Exactly, you have to. So record management is something that I would say, one has to be very, very careful about. Now the government has also stressed about the fact that you need to maintain records for about 8 years right now. So in this particular case, UAE, I would say investor majority, whether they're in free zones or mainland, they have to now take compliances relatively more seriously compared to how the compliance previously was relatively too easy and self-managed.
And also when we talk about free zones and जब भी आप देखो law का language ना, they always refer to as a qualifying free zone person.
Correct.
It's not only about entity, it's the person who's also comes under the purview of corporate tax.
Yeah.
We will discuss about this. अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल CA रवि हमारे साथ हमारे स्टूडियो में, do let us know 0586861003.
Talk 100.3.
Day break आप सुन रहे हैं, विवेक एंड म्यूरल आपके साथ, chilling म्यूरल right now.
Absolutely.
With a hot cup of coffee right now because ये Ravi has made our life so easy in the terms of explanation. I must compliment कि काफी understanding हमारी बढ़ रही है. Qualifying free zone, this is a subject जहाँ पे ना बहुत in-depth knowledge चाहिए and it looks like you've mastered this.
Thank you so much.
We are talking to CA Ravi about UAE corporate tax, definitely, but about qualifying activities in the free zones. Now, the first question that I have for you, Ravi, is the fact that after we've cleared a little bit of air with the free zones are concerned, now talk to me about this news that has been doing the rounds that some free zones will be exempted from the corporate tax and some not. Are we seeing companies shifting, making that move from one free zone to another? And why is this kind of differentiation even being brought about?
Yes. So in regards with this particular aspect, the designated free zones, as I mentioned, like, those free zones which are a part of the gated customs community, which are like, gated by the customs department itself, they are the ones who are like, given this particular benefit, wherein if they engage into any transactions with their own entities within the same zone, then you don't have to pay
qualifying free zone.
Qualifying free zone आप हो गए.
0% tax.
0% tax.
There is a slab. 0%.
0% हो गया आपका.
Free नहीं.
Free नहीं. यहाँ पे सर कैसा है कि we have to like declare it to the government, but आपको discharge कुछ नहीं करना है liability to them. Now ये हो गया आपके वो zones जहाँ पे like wherein you have a designated free zone and you are engaging into a transaction with a designated free zone plus any transaction outside of UAE. What about other free zones? Like, forget about there are other free zones, like more than 45 plus free zones in UAE.
Correct, yeah.
In this particular aspect, other free zones, they have given a list. Like, if you engage into certain type of activities, 12 activities they have broadly mentioned, starting from manufacturing, holding, etc., a lot of activities that they have mentioned. If you engage into these type of businesses, then also you will not be required to pay any corporate tax because they come under the qualifying income perspective. So it is not requiring to pay doesn't mean you don't have to declare.
Correct.
So say if I am a one particular company A, which is not in a designated free zone, I am in another free zone, but engaging into an activity within the 12 activities that the government has mentioned.
Right.
And I engage into business with mainland, free zone, designated free zone outside of UAE, I will not pay any taxes to the government because I will declare it to them, take the benefit of the exemption and accordingly not discharge any tax liability to them.
But the authority has complete idea in terms of कि कौन सा business कौन सी company कर रही है.
Absolutely.
So they have already a kind of a idea about how many companies will end up paying corporate tax.
Exactly.
So there is no way actually you can avoid it or say that I didn't know about the rule.
It's in like in a similar tangent like how any company like at the time like when any financial year ends over here it is from Jan to December. Say if I'm taking
Mostly,
it for an example. At the time when any financial year ends, we budget for the next year and we project for the next year that how much business I will do. Likewise, the government does it.
Right.
That if I'm introducing anything as a product, which is a tax, what would be my estimated revenue that I will get at the time when I introduce this?
Nice.
It's in the same tangent.
Right, but then when you're talking also about exemption, now could you talk to us about on what basis are these categorizations formed?
These are those particular activities and industries which are heavy industries, I would say, which actually drive the economy.
Okay.
At the time when I mentioned like manufacturing. So manufacturing is one particular, any country, if they have to actually like, grow their economy, manufacturing is the key aspect. You grow something, sell something, at the time you export something.
Nice.
So that is one particular aspect that manufacturing, any management of ships, treasury management, heavy industry activities are the ones that they have broadly listed stating that these would be those activities wherein we'll give the exemption.
Nice.
So coming to that question that, whether companies are shifting to different free zones, no, they're doing tax planning.
Nice.
So all free zones are healthy enough. They are like, preparing, gearing up for the new corporate tax. They are excited to do that.
Nice.
In terms of the fact that, since we are also channel partners with some of the friends, they're gearing up for that.
Nice.
They are happy about the fact that the corporate tax has been introduced. And also in regards with this, they are engaging with their own customers that, they should actually go for healthy tax planning.
Very nice.
So tax planning is the key subject over here that, once they do proper tax planning, you take the benefit of the law in the eye of the law.
Right, but when you're talking again about the benefit of the law, how beneficial is it for those companies? We are seeing a slab of 3 years. Post that, what?
So that is for the small businesses. That is in regards with the mainlands. That wherein like, they're giving that particular relief for a period of 3 years if they have a certain turnover of up to 3 million dirhams. This particular aspect, see, as after the pandemic, like, we do not project things for more than 5 years.
Right.
Like, say about 3 years from now, who expected that, the government will give 100% ownership in mainland?
Correct.
Who expected the fact that, there would be 10 years golden visas handed out to investors who make an investment of 2 million dirhams.
Right.
So maybe after 2 years from now, they would certainly extend the exemption. So the government over here is relatively too clear about the fact that they would want to grow in that particular aspect. They would never overburden the taxpayer, but they would certainly give away the benefits also in this particular.
But also,
aspect.
one of the benefits jo aapne kaha that amortization is also offering a lot of benefits for companies who enroll into the program. Lekin also, there are some more benefits in terms of bookkeeping, in terms of accounting for the organization when it comes to corporate tax.
Bookkeeping, and see, as I mentioned that, to compute corporate tax, you have to maintain books.
Correct.
So whether if I don't wish to even maintain it, that I still have to maintain it because I need to come to the right tax liability.
So everybody has to do this now.
Because what will happen is it is in the interest of the taxpayer itself. If I don't maintain it, forget about what the law says. If I don't maintain it, I will end up paying more taxes to the government. So the government is rather passively asking you to maintain books of accounts so that you end up paying the right tax what they are requiring, and they're giving away the benefits.
Right.
Right. When you talk about qualifying free zone person, what happens if they don't abide by the law? They don't fulfill the conditions?
Yeah. So if they don't fulfill the conditions, they'll not get the benefit. It's as simple as that. It is in respect of the fact that the word qualifying free zone person, it's a technical word what the the FTA has actually defined it in its official gazette. It means any free zone person who qualifies by engaging into certain activities. So I can be whether a designated free zone or a non-designated free zone. If I do those particular things, I become a qualifying free zone person.
Nice.
So it is a technical term that the government has actually issued, but to actually break it down in plain simple layman's term, it means that if I'm a free zone, whether I'm in any particular jurisdiction, I maintain qualify with all those particular terms and conditions that they have laid down, do these activities, I will be termed as a qualifying free zone person. If I do not, I will end up paying taxes to the government at the entire income that I generate.
We got a question. Our customers are B2B, but they use the products themselves and don't resell. Will we still qualify for exemption?
So if the customer is B2B, it has to resell it itself. A business which consumes becomes a customer. Having said that, B2B means that, if I'll just break down this in an example. I'm a trader of foodstuff trading. I buy almonds from a manufacturer. Now, when I take it from them, I resell it to my consumers, whether it is any retail store, supermarkets and all. Now, when I go to the supermarket as a consumer, I end up paying that. I don't get the credit of that.
Correct.
In this particular case, a B2B means that the person has to resell. He cannot consume it.
Right.
The moment he consumes it, he becomes a consumer. Now, a business also certainly can be a consumer. Like, say, for example, if we are chartered accountants, our consumption would be for printing and stationery. We buy a lot of papers. Right. So, in that particular aspect, I cannot say that, to a stationery vendor saying that, I'm a B2B, I become a consumer for him because I'm not reselling that particular stationery. So the person has to resell to take this benefit.
अगर आपके पास भी सवाल है, CA रवि हमारे साथ है. This is the best opportunity to have a clear understanding about qualifying free zones. 0586861003 हमारा WhatsApp number या give us a call 808-1003.
Talk 100.3.
Welcome to Daybreak with Vivek Sanal and myself, Amirul Disa. And right now we are in conversation with CA Ravi Kotwani, Director of Revenue and Strategy Formulation, Avyanco Group of Companies, and we're talking to him about qualifying activities in free zones. Now, I had one question for you, Ravi. The question that I had was...
A new company, jab, they want to start mainland या free zone. See, I can read your mind, Muriel.
Okay, so I think this is a $1 million question that usually people ask, whether mainland or free zone. If you ask me, based on the fact that, what business are they into, then accordingly, we can state that, okay, this mainland would be better or free zone. Tax-wise, both are equal. So today, if any businessman who is actively engaged into business right now in UAE, if they ask me whether should I switch my entire business from free zone to mainland or from mainland to free zone,
right,
I say that don't do that. You just need tax planning. Set up another company, keep one in mainland, keep one in free zone. The government will never overburden or tax one particular jurisdiction. That can never happen. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world.
Nice.
It is wherein they keep one particular zone giving certain pros, certain cons in the other zone. So if any investor who asks me that whether where should we set up a company, I recommend them that you keep one leg in the mainland, the other leg in the free zone. Whatever is beneficial in the mainland, we will accordingly, based on the customers and the geography of your customers, we'll take it in the mainland. If regards with that, we'll take it in the free zone.
Okay, so tell me something.
Yeah.
As a company, I've hired a CA and I've spent a lot of money on an accounts department, right?
Understood.
Which means to ensure that I'm having that kind of profit, that kind of money in my account. The job of a CA is to ensure that I have that sum, then तो मतलब रखने का क्या फायदा बताओ तो.
See, the job of a CA is like, more like a compliance officer.
हाँ.
To make profits, वो
revenue
तो
strategy
व्यापारी
नहीं
का
है.
काम है, लेकिन वो व्यापारी पैसा बनाएगा.
मतलब सीए पैसे बनाएगा आपके लिए, ये सोच आपको बदलना पड़ेगा, उसी के बाद देश बदलेगा.
Exactly.
So then how do you overcome a question like that? I'm sure you would have also been receiving
How to
few of
maximize? So
them.
tax planning is the answer.
See, tax planning comes into play when there are profits. If there are no profits, then tax is certainly not there. If anybody who checks with us that, how do we increase our business, there are aspects like, you have to engage into the right product. You need to have the right service if you're a service oriented. Market it well. Customer satisfaction is of the key importance because only then your business will grow. And any business takes about anywhere between on an average 3 to 5 years to actually come to that particular level wherein they state that, now we can start getting dividends out of it.
Right.
So before that, they say that there is a rule of 1,000 days. So that 1,000 days is the time where an investor has to actually give everything to the business so that he can still foresee dividends coming out of from that particular
So
company.
3 years basically.
Minimum.
Ajay, coming back to mainland free zone वाला सवाल, you should always, I think as a business, आपकी activity को मद्देनजर रख के you should choose the area rather than the tax should be the last part of your decision. Your thoughts?
I would say second part to it. The first part is certainly as you rightly mentioned that क्या business activity है. जैसे for example DMCC, it states Dubai Multi Commodity Center. Why is it saying commodities? It means that it is a commodity market.
Right. Which is JLT, right?
JLT itself.
Yeah.
So any particular zone like Dubai Internet City, why is it saying Internet City?
Right.
Because it is more for tech companies.
Correct.
So one has to identify its market first. This is what I always recommend. It is not based on that you take mainland or free zone, how cost effective it is. Everything will be cost effective if you do the right business in the right way.
Nice.
So once you identify your target market, you know that this is the place where usually companies like us would actually set up their base. You set up over there, then you look into the tax aspect. So because one is to make revenue and business and then talk about taxes.
In perspective and giving examples, so what companies or what businesses do you think will flourish in mainland, and what is best to move towards free zone? Just to give
मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ कि क्रिकेट की दुकान खोल लो. मैं तो बोलता स्पोर्ट्स गुड, विराट ने बनाई ली है सेंचुरी. लॉट ऑफ आने वाला है डिमांड फॉर मोर एंड मोर क्रिकेट किट्स.
Absolutely. See, in regards with this particular fact, ma'am, I would say the last 3 years has been very beneficial for UAE. A lot of immigration increase we have seen in this particular country. Primarily investment has increased, whether it is real estate or by setting up of companies. So any business, wherever there is an increase in immigration, you will see real estate go up. If there is an Indian immigration going up, certainly real estate will go up because
Correct.
primarily that is the first investment that Indians prefer to do.
Right.
Going away from that, apart from the real estate aspect, the more the immigration, the more the consumption.
Correct.
So that way, any business that you set up right now, UAE has been known as a trading hub. So any business that you set up, whether it is for domestic consumption or for exports, it is bound to thrive.
Okay, so we have a question and it's come in. If I need to set up media production house, what is good, mainland or free zone?
Media production house. Now the question is that what would be the target customers. Now for one, if you ask me, I would say if you want to set up a media production house, go for Dubai Media City.
Right.
But the second question is, what are your target customers?
Right.
If the client mentions to me that my entire customer base would be in free zone, I would then say that might as well do it in free zone, take the tax benefit.
Nice.
So the answer changes the moment they talk about
Activity.
the geography of the customers.
Nice.
First is immediate answer. If they ask me where do I set up, I will say go ahead with this particular zone. The moment they say that my customer base would be completely in the free zone, I would say then might as well you shift it so that you take the tax benefit.
Achha, the companies which are being formed now,
Yeah.
so they will also need to have 3 months of accounting and then file the returns?
So ideally, the moment when the company gets formed, I'm talking about the first financial
Let's say
year.
now, November, abhi now.
To November, so the first financial year, the government
Jan
gives you
to
a
December,
privilege.
2024.
Yes. So even if you set it up in say August, so you don't have to prepare the books of accounts for 4 months. The government in the first financial year gives you the benefit to extend it for 18 months.
Nice.
So you can take it to December 24, combine that particular report and then get it audited.
So implications अब 2025 में होना शुरू होंगे. So we have time, lot of awareness going on right now.
Yes.
And you have time to actually file, prepare your books of account as well. If you haven't,
Yes.
you can still do it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
अगर आपके पास सवाल है तो do let us know. 0586861003. CA रवि हमारे साथ है. Stay tuned.
Talk 100.3.
डे ब्रेक आप सुन रहे 9:36 CA रवि कोटवानी हमारे साथ. टॉक कंप्लायंस, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट क्वालिफाइंग फ्री जोन्स. नाउ वी गॉट अ वॉइस नोट और हम सवाल सुन लेते हैं.
My name is Iqbal. मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि the qualifying activities if the company is a designated free zone, okay, and these activities are related with the designated free zone and the mainland as well. So you said this is subject to corporate tax, but it's a normal free zone, same qualifying activities, but related to the free zone as well and the mainland as well, but they are tax free. How it is possible?
Yeah,
Sure.
Ravi. Yeah.
So, question, मैं इनको I will break it in 3 particular parts.
Okay.
Designated free zone, as I mentioned, like, the difference between designated free zone and free zone. Designated free zones are with customs gated community. Free zones are normal free zones. As I mentioned, like, there are more than 45. In a designated free zone, if you are engaging into business with any other designated free zone, whether it is distribution of goods, you're not subject to corporate tax. What I mean is that you're subject to 0% corporate tax,
Correct.
qualifying income.
Correct.
In regards with free zones, I'm talking about other free zones. Leave the customs part. Normal other free zones. Like, say, take example DMCC. It doesn't have a customs gated community. In this particular free zone, if I'm engaging into those type of activities, the 12 activities that the government has mentioned, and then my customers, like, I engage into business with mainland, any other free zone outside of UAE, then also I'm not subject to corporate tax. That means I need to pay 0% tax on the income derived. So what I would want to break it up is that if I'm a free zone, which is not a designated free zone,
Okay.
and I do those 12 activities, any of those 12 activities, and then my customer base, irrespective, whether it is outside of UAE, mainland, or other free zones, I will not be paying any corporate tax to the government because it is chargeable at 0%. It qualifies as qualifying income. In regards with mainland, there is no such distinction given. This benefit is only for free zones.
Correct.
So mainland, all transactions are taxable. Whether I'm doing business with mainland, whether I'm doing business with free zone, whether I'm doing business with designated free zone or outside, I am just given a relief of 3 million dirhams, that too for the next 3 years.
Correct.
So mainland is completely like, they have clearly demarcated the fact that, they will be subject to corporate tax. Free zones are the one who are given this benefit that if you do such type of activities, you can take the benefit. And designated free zone, as it is, that, they are completely outside the gamut of it.
And I hope कि इकबाल आपको आपके सवाल का जवाब मिल गया हो. अगर और भी सवाल है, you can always give us a call 800-81003.
Right now there is this question that is come in, and what happens if a qualifying free zone person earns income that is not qualifying income?
Yes. So that will be certainly the fact wherein that qualifying free zone persons, entities primarily, would end up even earning non-qualifying income, which means that they would end up earning other income other than the ones that are mentioned over the 12 list.
If you can put it into an example.
Yes. So say for example, I set up company A.
Okay.
I set it up in a free zone. It's a non-designated free zone. I am a manufacturer. Now, based on this particular activity, I come under the exemption.
Okay.
If I earn a revenue of say about 1 million dirhams from this particular activity, I will not pay any corporate tax to the government because it will be subject to 0%. However, if I get say other income, maybe brokerage or any other type of income, maybe income from some other type of activities, that is considered as non-qualifying income, other than the 12 activities that are mentioned in the list. So if that income, if I start earning, it leads to disqualification, so subject to certain conditions, like de minimis requirements are there, that your income should not go 5% of, like the non-qualifying part should not increase more than 5% of the total income, should not increase 5 million dirhams. So there are terms and conditions that the government has laid down, that it is not that you're prohibited. You can earn it, but subject to certain, understanding that the portion of that income is not substantial.
Nice.
Is it just the entity or any person associated with it, which means any board of members of a particular company as well?
No, this is only the entity. As I mentioned that, the person term is a technical term given by the government. As of now, there is no income tax. So any individual person is not subject to any tax.
अच्छा लगा, as of now there is no income. ये सुन के ना so दिल पे ऐसा धक-धक और ज़्यादा हो गया. We will discuss more. अगर आपके पास भी सवाल, do let us know. 0586861003.
Talk 100.3.
Welcome back to Daybreak with Vivek, Sanal and myself, Meerul Disa, still in conversation with CA Ravi Kotwani, now Director of Revenue and Strategy Formulation, Avyanco Group of Companies, and we're talking to him about qualifying activities in free zones. And right now, we do have a caller on hold with us.
आदिल, आप पूछ सकते हैं, रवि आपकी आवाज़ सुन रहे हैं.
ऑलराइट, मेरा रवि साहब से एक ही सवाल है, वो ये है कि ये बताइए कोई भी लोग जो यूएई में काम करते हैं 10-12 साल से और वो अपना कोई बिजनेस शुरू करना चाहते हैं फ्री जोन के अंदर, तो मुझे एक टिप ये जरूर चाहिए, बल्कि हम सबको ही चाहिए कि अगर हम कोई सर्विस ओरिएंटेड बिजनेस करते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल कोई लॉजिस्टिक्स का या फिर एडवर्टाइजिंग कंपनी का, तो उसमें क्या सिनारियो होगा कि हम उसमें जो है टैक्स जो है सेव कर सकें या एग्जेम्पशन मिल सके?
ओके, सो आई थिंक उनका सवाल ये था कि वेदर ही सेट्स अप, लाइक 10 से 12 साल उन्होंने यूएई में काम किया है एंड ही वांट्स टू सेट अप ए सर्विस ओरिएंटेड, लाइक प्रोवाइड सर्विसेज to his customers, whether it is logistic services or any ancillary services. I think he mentioned about advertising. Logistic services is one of the listed activities in qualifying free zones.
Oh, nice.
So if he's primarily engaging into logistic services, I will say set it up in any free zone. Engage into logistical services, irrespective of the geography of your customers. You will not be required to pay any corporate tax to the government. It will be chargeable at 0%. But if it is advertising, since it is not a part of the 12 listed activities, then the game changes. If you set it up in a free zone, either it will become a part of your non-qualifying income, as we discussed before. If not, you set up another company in mainland, take the benefit of 3 million small business relief. So that way, you are doing proper tax planning. Logistics services, to be more precise, you set it up in a free zone, take the benefit of the law, and pay 0% corporate tax on that. If it is advertising, set it up in mainland, take the benefit of law again, 3 million dirham small business relief.
ठीक है आदिल?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
But then, cost-wise, how would this be beneficial then?
In service-oriented business, depends upon the margins that you're making. So, say if my turnover from a service-oriented business is about 2 million dirhams annually, I'm talking about, and my margins in service is relatively high. Tradings, you have wafer-thin margins ranging between 7 to 12%. In service, if you have anywhere between 25 to 30%, because you are just selling services, it is intangible in nature. 30% of 2 million is about 600,000 dirhams. Now, the moment when you reduce 600 from the slab that is there for 375, the differential amount you pay corporate tax on that. Now, as an investor, we have to do cost benefit analysis. The tax that I will pay versus what I have to set up. If versus what I have to set up is still beneficial, go ahead with the setup. If not, then continue paying taxes.
You know, this is amazing. And when you talk about audited financial, reports, is it mandate for all companies to have it, or how does this really work?
To be relatively more precise and clear, auditing of financial statements have been mandatory in mainland since 2017.
Okay.
So if I can ask any mainland investor to actually check its MOA, the clause is clearly mentioned over there stating that you have to get your books audited. Now it will become imperative. Why? Because as I mentioned, because of corporate tax, you will have to get your books audited to determine the right revenue, the right profits, accordingly discharge the liability, and get your trade license renewed. So auditing has been mandatory since 2017 for mainland. For free zones, they are as it is asking for it at the time when they are renewing it. Now the corporate tax law has mandated for all free zones, irrespective whether you're doing qualifying, non-qualifying, whether you're earning income or not, you have to get your books of accounts audited. So mainland, it was there since the beginning. It's been like more than 6 years that it was there.
Nice.
Right.
But for free zones, they have now mandated in the corporate tax law itself.
Are there any approved list of auditors that the government is asking you to go and get it audited by?
So to have an audit license over here in UAE, you first need to be qualified. Apply with the Ministry of Economy to obtain the license. Once you get the license, you need to be registered with the listed free zones. So it depends upon the type of free zones that you have your business with. Now, if I have a business in a DMCC and say Mr. Ravi, who is not an auditor in DMCC, even if I get his books of accounts audited from Mr. Ravi, I will not be able to submit it to the DMCC authority. So you need to be a listed auditor with the respective free zones, as well as not being blacklisted by any of the authorities.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll continue the discussion. If you have any question, this is your chance. 0586861003. WhatsApp your call 800-81003. This is Talk Compliance, and if you missed the audio, the video, you can always go to Tally Meena ka YouTube channel and watch all the videos. Stay tuned.
Talk 100.3.
Day break. आप सुन रहे हैं Talk Compliance brought to you by Tally Solutions. You can always log on to tallysolutions.com as well. Now, CA Ravi Kotwani हमारे साथ, and we are discussing about qualifying free zone, qualifying income. Lot of excluded activities की list के बारे में, included activities की list, designated zone, free zone, qualifying activities. Lot of discussion now. Coming to the last part of our question of our session, can a qualifying free zone person benefit from 375,000 zero tax band in respect of its income that is subject to corporate tax at 9%? Detail में हमने बात की इसके बारे में.
Qualifying sir free zone person will not be given the benefit of 375 because as it is the benefit of exemption is there. So qualifying free zone person, if I'm engaging, like I'll take again an example so that like anyone who wants to actually understand it in detail, they can actually understand it proper. I have a company in DMCC, it's not a designated zone. I engage into manufacturing. Now this is a qualifying activity. If I'm doing this business, as it is, I'm getting the exemption. So the question of 375 will not come into play. The question of 375 comes into play when I'm going to pay taxes to the government, when my income is subject to taxes. So this particular thing will not be applicable to qualifying free zone persons who are engaging into qualifying activities. The benefit of 375 will not be there.
Now, will a free zone person be required to register and file a UAE corporate tax return?
100%. All free zones now have been mandated to register with the corporate tax authorities, that is the federal tax authority, for obtain their corporate tax registration, file returns at the time when they are due, and declare accordingly the income which is qualifying or non-qualifying. Irrespective of the type of income, it is mandatory for them to register as well as file returns, all free zones.
And if a qualifying free zone person earns income that is not qualifying income?
If they do not earn, they will be disqualified.
Nice.
And for the ones who've yet not understand the gamut of what corporate tax is to bring onto the table, what is that advice that you'd like to pass on to them?
The most important part would be aware about corporate tax. There is a lot of literature as well as material available over the internet. The Federal Tax Authority itself publishes a lot of notifications, gazettes, which they actually explain in detail. They have their awareness seminars as well. So I would always recommend to the investor segment of UAE to be aware of it, because it is always good to comply with the law than to end up paying a lot of penalties to the government.
Are there any more updates awaited for qualifying free zones?
Yes. So recently on Friday, the government has actually come up with an publication on qualifying free zone itself. Our technical team is also analyzing the ramifications of it. And but more or less I can assure you, whenever there is an update, it is always in the benefit of the taxpayer.
जाते जाते एक क्विक सवाल आया है. DMCC free zone is commodity trading zone. There is no manufacturing in non-designated free zone. Manufacturing is available only on designated free zone.
Correct. So manufacturing is just one of the listed activities. There are like 12 activities. It need not be. I was just taking an example of DMCC as manufacturing.
Right.
You can.
बहुत ध्यान से सुन रहे सब.
You can have processing of goods and materials, holding of shares and securities. You can have headquarter business. You can have logistical services, reinsurance services, wealth management. There are 12 activities. So any of those 12 activities, if you are engaging into in DMCC, to answer to that question, you will not be required to pay any corporate tax.
Any grey areas, Ravi, as far the free zones are concerned that people need to bear in mind?
The grey area primarily is with the name that they are no longer free of taxes.
Nice. Yeah.
So they need to comply. So see, any benefit that comes, whether it is to be exempted or not to pay taxes, it comes with compliance. So compliance is the key management right now. If you want to take the benefit, comply with the law.
Absolutely.
Super.
On that note, thank you very much, Ravi, for taking time out, coming into our studios. How can people get in touch with you?
To get in touch with me, you can log on to www.avyanco.com, and we are located in the heart of a city in Trade Center Sheraton. So you can book an appointment with me over there.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much,
Thank
Ravi.
Talk 100.3.